Welcome to Australian Survivor Archives, the only podcast going over the complete history of Australian Survivor from Whalers Way right through to the current day. We are, of course, in Season 2 of Australian Survivor now, Celebrity Survivor from Channel 7 in 2006, and we are so excited for today's episode. We've done a couple of introduction episodes, we've spoken to the executive producer, we've gone over our first recap of the first episode, and we are here today for our very first contestant interview, and maybe the most exciting of all of them. I'm so pumped for this one today. I'm going to start off by saying that my name is Ben Waterworth, and I want to bring in my on-location co-host today. For those watching the video of this, he looks a little bit different, a little bit refreshed. He's got the facial hair. He's looking very chilled up there in Port Douglas. Over to you, my good friend.
Hi, Ben. Hi, listeners. As you know, my name's Matt Dyson. And you're right, Ben. I think I've almost got a tan for the very first time. I'm up here on Port Douglas on my baby moon, but I wouldn't miss this for the world. I've made it happen. We've got a very special guest here, a first boot, Ben. As you know, as everyone knows, I'm a first boot, and there's nothing better than being a part of the first boot club. So I wouldn't miss this interview for the world. But, Ben, I've got to thank you for this. You've done all the legwork here. We often call me the bloodhound because I'm out tracking down these past contestants. But, Ben, this is all you.
Well, I like to say in this season, Matt, it takes a celebrity to get the celebrities. So therefore, you only lasted the 2 days on Survivor. Doesn't quite make you a celebrity. So, you know, I had to take the reins for this one. But we are thrilled to be able to welcome our guest today. She was the first boot on Celebrity Survivor Season 2. Lasted 3 days. But I am so intrigued to just get to the stories and everything else that came with this, because as people heard last week on our recap, we were so intrigued about this very short time on Celebrity Survivor from our guest today, and I'm sure we're going to get to the bottom of many things we want to know. Kym Johnson-Herjavec is with us today. Kym, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Australian Survivor Archives.
Oh, thank you for having me. I think it's crazy and amazing you guys are doing this. It was so long ago that I was on Survivor. I've kind of forgotten about it. But then things are so clear in my memory too of experiences I had. It was a crazy time. So I was the first one voted off. So I'm only on one episode. But I think I made quite an impact in that one episode.
Indeed. Well, this is the thing, like you sort of mentioning somewhat forgotten about. I mean, it was kind of, you've done so much since Survivor that out of everyone from your season, I think you've basically gone on to do the most, and that's kind of where we're thinking when we reached out. We're thinking, would you even remember that you did this show? I mean, this is now looking back basically 15 years ago, right?
It was like, 15 years ago. I remember I'd done, I think, 3 seasons of Dancing with the Stars in Australia. I'd won a season, and, you know, Survivor was going to be on Channel 7. And I think they were like, oh, it could be good to get, you know, someone from the ballroom who's, you know, seen to be always hair and makeup in those fabulous outfits. What she'd be like, you know, stuck, you know, in Survivor. So when they called me, it was actually kind of funny. My manager called me and said, they'd like you to do Survivor. And I said, I'm just not an outdoorsy type of girl. Like, I've never been camping. I just don't think I'd be very good at it. And my manager said to me, oh, well, they told me there's basic camping equipment. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went to, I think it was the Logies or something, and I saw one of the heads from Channel 7 there, and he's like, oh, Kimmy, we're so happy, you know, you're going to do Survivor, which I hadn't signed on to do it yet. And I said, oh, I'm just a bit nervous. And he goes, no, there's basic camping equipment. It's not like the regular Survivor. It's different. You know, you're not going to be sort of slumming it as much. And I was like, oh, okay. So I get to the airport. That's when I first met all the other celebrities, and they flew us business class, of course. And I was sitting next to Wayne Gardner, the motorcycle driver. And I'm sitting next to him, and I've got a glass of champagne, and he's like, oh, so are you nervous, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, all the other, you know, contestants are sizing each other up, especially the girls. They were really sizing each other up. The guys are a bit more laid back. And I'm sitting next to Wayne, and I said, yeah, I'm really excited. You know, I'm nervous, but at least we've got basic camping equipment. So that makes me feel better. And as the plane's going up, he looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? There's like no basic camping equipment. And I'm just like, oh my God, like down the champagne. And like they basically had lied to me to get me.
Well, Kym, it's actually quite funny because that's one of the great moments, I guess, in that first episode that we sort of remember when you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I thought there was tents and fresh water. And I think it's Amber Petty was like, well, you're wrong about the tents and you're wrong about the water.
I know. They were all making fun of me. I mean, I didn't really care. I had no idea what they were running to. I'm just like, what on earth are they doing? Because all of the girls just started to like take off. And I know they were probably trying to find things and explore, but I'm like, I don't know where they're running to, but there is nothing here. Like this is a waste of time looking for stuff.
Now, Kym, before we go on more about Survivor, obviously with Dancing with the Stars, that's where I guess you shot to fame and were a household name in Australia. Can we just go back to that first? And just because obviously that led to you being on Celebrity Survivor, how did that all come about? Like obviously with your dancing and getting on Dancing with the Stars, which ultimately ended up you getting on Celebrity Survivor. How did all that come about?
I was living in, actually I was in the States at that time in Tampa, doing a show called Burn the Floor, which is an Australian, actually the producers from Australia. And I was doing that show. I'd been doing the competitive ballroom stuff over in England. And then I got into this show, Burn the Floor, which I toured the world in. Anyway, I'm in the States and I see that the English version is on Strictly Come Dancing. And I was like, wow, like that would be so great to do. And we were on a little break. We went back to Australia and they were auditioning for the Australian version. I was meant to go back out on the road with Burn the Floor, I think a month later to Japan, but I auditioned for it, ended up getting the gig. So I left Burn the Floor, which I'd been doing for 7 years, touring the world. So it was a pretty tough decision, but I wanted to, I was sick of being on the road. I wanted to sort of be at home and it was sort of seemed perfect fit. So I was just ended up, auditioning and getting the gig.
And it was just before I think you were on Survivor that the season of Dancing with the Stars that aired, that really famous one with Tom Williams, right? The shirtless scene. Yeah, everyone remembers that, right?
It became such a big thing, but it was like, it became such a big thing. It was kind of crazy, that number that we did. So I guess, I mean, the show in those days, it was kind of, I think, at its peak. A lot of people were watching the show. It was kind of in its heyday. So I think it was, pretty great that the producers of Survivor thought, I mean, it's kind of interesting that I'm just known to be in those, sparkly outfits, very glamorous, to see me, on a deserted beach. So yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm definitely up for a challenge and I feel like I loved the challenges that we did. But I was not expecting there to be no shelter or anything. I remember like before I went into it, my mum said to me, Kym, you've never been camping. Like, how do you think you can do this? So I said, I know. And actually my mum and dad they'd been getting a divorce. So my dad sort of wasn't really around and my brother just got married. So I had like no guys to like help me figure out how to tie things. Mum was like, I think you should like learn how to make a little lean-to thing, or she didn't even call it that, but you need to learn to tie some knots or do some basic things. So I was like, actually, you're right. So I called my local Boy Scouts hall.
Wow.
In Padstow Heights. And I called them up and that show, the Dance with Stars finale had just been on. So it was pretty like a big thing. And I come from Padstow Heights, which is a pretty small place. And I call and I say, I just wanted to see if you have a meeting on this week and I'd love to come. And I was like, oh, is it about your son? And I was like, no, it's actually me. And I couldn't really tell them what I was doing. And I said, it's actually for myself. I need to learn to tie some knots and some basic camping things. And maybe I thought you and the kids I could just join one of your classes. So I think they were just so intrigued. They allowed me to go in and I went there with all these like 10-year-old kids and the teacher, and they taught me. I remember I said, well, how do I, start a fire with 2 sticks? And they're like, you don't do that. You take a flint. So they were like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going camping. And they're like, well, you take a tent. I'm like, but what if I can't take a tent? So they actually taught me to tie knots. So I felt really good about that I could tie some knots, and they taught me how to make a lean-to with some sticks. So I felt like I had that going in. And then I remember Fiona, the White Witch, kind of took over the alpha role. And I remember I went up to her and I was like, oh, I can tie some knots. And she's like, just go fetch the leaves. And I was just like,
that doesn't sound like Fiona at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was just like, oh my God, like I know how to tie knots. So I felt like I was just, I was trying to like help and pull my weight, but there was like quite strong other female forces in there that like really wanted to, take control. So I was just like, okay, you do that.
It's interesting to hear that you had that preparation into it, because in that one episode you're in, it's kind of very much like this wasn't what I was expecting, and kind of just basically going through the motions. I don't know if they're deliberately doing that to make you look like just an absolute fish out of water. That's what they were hoping in.
Oh no, I actually really didn't. I was not happy at all. Like I was just looking around like, what in the world? Yeah, I was just like, it was not what I honestly thought there was going to be some sort of maybe a 10 or something. So I was just like, I can't believe that we don't have anything. And then I'm just like, we're stuck here. And I remember like I hardly had any clothes. I just had what was in my backpack. I had my luxury item was, I was struggling with what to take for the luxury item, but I remember lying in bed one night in my Egyptian cotton Sheridan, like, 100,000 count sheet. And I was like, this is it. If I feel safe, like if I can take my sheet, I can wrap myself up in it at night. I could maybe use it for shelter. I'm going to take my sheet. I can cocoon myself pretty much. So I was pretty proud of my luxury item. I was going to take a toothbrush, but the Boy Scouts told me that coconut husk is good to clean teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
So they let you take the sheet then. So that was your luxury item.
Yeah, I took this Egyptian cotton, very expensive sheet, and that was like, my luxury thing. And I didn't really have many like long sweaters or anything like that. And it was cold at night. And I remember the first night I said, I got the sheet out. And I think Fiona grabbed it. She goes, great, we've got something to lie on. And she just took my sheet. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to start turning like and going crazy. Like that's my sheet. But I didn't say anything at the time. So I'm there the first night just lying on top of my sheet with like nothing on. Just like, this is my sheet. I should be like wrapped up in it. And then like, it just like, that became like the communal sheet. We were using it as shade in the day, and I'm just like looking, and then it rained and I'm like, my sheet's getting wet.
My 1,000 count Egyptian cotton, everything basically going.
I was starting to turn over the sheet. I ended up leaving it with them actually as a gift, parting gift.
Great. Kym, what about, obviously you started the game and your tribe was all females, obviously before Justin came on, but what were your thoughts of that?
Well, I was kind of hoping that I would be maybe have like Wayne, because I formed like a good friendship with him on the plane. And Grant, he seemed like he could, sort of do anything. So I thought they would have been good to be mixed, but I kind of had an idea that we're going to do that. And I think we were doing pretty well as far as making the shelter and stuff, all the girls. I think we just had an issue with the challenges, because you're up against these football players and an Ironman. Like, of course, they're quicker. So, and then the pig challenge, that was just, you saw them go in there. They just like picked them up and picked the pigs up. Like we couldn't do that. So I feel like it was a little bit unfair with the challenges. That's why we weren't winning and getting any food. But I liked being with the girls. I loved Amber and Imogen. All the girls were great. Fiona was a bit full on, but I liked her,
It's funny you mentioned Wayne, and obviously you got that early bond, because I know when he was on Kakula with Guy Leach, those two were ended up being like best friends from day one as well. So Wayne obviously had that, and we hope to obviously speak to Wayne down the track, but he obviously had that personality where people could just get along with him straight away.
Oh, he's just such a nice guy, he's a really lovely guy. So is Guy. Guy Leach is so nice. So I really got along with those two. And I got along with all the girls as well. I feel like we did a pretty good job. You know, Amber and I were having a bit of a laugh about everything. But they seemed to be a bit more into it. I was just like, I liked the challenges, but I don't know, on the second night when we hit a mini cyclone and we had the rain just coming, it was like torture, you know, and even the night vision cameras had to leave.
Wow.
And actually this is how I ended up getting booted off first. I could see how much they all wanted to be there. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. So I had said to them when we had the mini cyclone, I said, if we lose, I just want you to know I'm voting for myself to the rest of to my girls. So I think they realized that I wanted to go, and I think they had conversations that, you know, because I was getting along with them. I feel like in that episode, it didn't point to me being the first one voted out.
Not at all. It was very much an Imogen
and that's
kind of
that's what happened. I think it
yeah.
stemmed from the conversation of what I'd, you know, said to them in this mini cyclone that we had, which unfortunately wasn't on camera because the night vision, even the cameraman had to leave.
Well, Kym, that's the thing. When you watch the episode as a viewer, for sure it looked like Imogen Bailey was going to go home first. She struggled in the first challenge.
Yeah.
She seemed to be struggling around camp. I think there was a couple of others that actually
alliances forming, and people were trying to, Imogen was trying to get everyone to vote Fiona off, and Fiona was trying to get everyone to vote Imogen off.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it was a bit confusing then that I went.
So someone like Justin, obviously you had known Justin from Dancing with the Stars. Was he trying to encourage you to stay on? Because obviously we know Justin really wanted to win this game, and we see that later down the track. Where he really he gets to the end, but he really wants to win it. So obviously someone like you, he already knows. Well, he would look at you as
an ally. Yeah, he's got me as an ally. So
exactly.
He had that pact.
Yeah, he would look at you as someone that he could go all the way with. He's going to trust you. So did he try to talk you into staying?
He did. I think he could tell, you know, I was not having fun with it. I guess everyone else just wanted to be there. So I could tell everyone wanted to really be there. And I was just like, I don't know if my heart's in it as much as everybody else. And I really didn't feel like I could write anyone else's name down because I know Imogen had struggled with the challenge, but she was really wanting to be there. Like she was really trying. So I didn't want to vote Imogen, you know, so I was just like, I'm just going to vote for myself. And then it all just worked out that, you know, they all voted for me too.
Just want to go back slightly to the plane trip you were mentioning before, that conversation you had with Wayne. You could see all the other celebrities there. Were you familiar, like either by knowing them, or did you look and go, oh, hey, there's Guy Leach, or like, were you aware of who these people?
Knew all of them. I knew all of them. You know, Australia's, you know, not so big, and you know, pretty much everyone. I mean, I didn't know them personally, but I knew of all of them. So, and obviously Justin was a surprise coming in at the end. Didn't know he was coming in.
So that was genuinely like that scene when you're on that beach going, it's Justin, like that was genuine.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I love, like, Justin and I are such good friends. We did the first season of Dancing with the Stars together. And he's just such a nice guy. So I was very happy to see him.
Did you have, in those moments, obviously you've had that conversation with Wayne on the plane, and kind of this is when you're all of a sudden, oh crap, they've lied to me. And then you're out there in Vanuatu and you're realizing Wayne's telling the truth. I'm in it here. Was there any part of you that kind of tried to put that aside and go, okay, well, I'm here to play a game. Let's try and form these bonds and alliances and things like that?
Oh, for sure. I was trying to do that. And, you know, in the challenge when we had to swim out, I was really into that. I feel like I did pretty good at that challenge, but we were just losing, like this losing battle kind of thing. And then it was just getting a little awkward back at camp after we lost that first challenge, and everyone was sort of, especially Fiona was pretty upset with Imogen. I mean, it wasn't her fault that we lost the thing. But yeah, it was getting like awkward, and I was just like, oh gosh, it's not really in my nature to be forming these alliances and like trying to, I don't know. It's just, I know that that's what the show is, but yeah, part of me wishes I had have stuck it out a little bit more, but it sort of worked out perfect because when I got booted off, I didn't have to stay in Vanuatu as part of the tribe. And as soon as I got back to Sydney, I got a call from America.
Wow.
Like a week or two later, asking me to come to be on the American Dancing with the Stars. So I wouldn't have been able to go if I was still in Survivor. So it all worked out.
So you can almost thank everyone for voting you out at the end of the day, Kym, because you basically went on to America, you met your husband, you've had a family, you've got a great life now. So thank you, everyone, for voting me out.
For a reason.
Yeah.
The same thing hasn't quite happened for me, Ben. I haven't gone on to be a star in America, but
it'll happen. It's a gradual thing, right?
Things have gone well. But Kym, what about Survivor in general? Had you watched the show before, or did you have to go and quickly watch some shows before you went out there?
I hadn't really watched it that much. I mean, I'd seen a couple of episodes, but I wasn't like a diehard fan that had watched all these seasons. I knew, obviously knew of the show, but I should have probably watched it a little more and done more research instead of just going to my Boy Scout hall.
Did they come to you after Survivor, or did you sort of like, did they work out then all of a sudden, so that's why she came to us when they eventually saw you?
You know what? I should have reached out to them. I didn't. I should have reached out to them straight after. They probably would have been embarrassed to say that they helped me. You
could have blamed them. You could have, hey, you didn't teach me how to do this, but that's why I went first, right?
Yeah.
Go play that card. One thing that we're going to ask all our guests, and I mean, we completely understand if you don't want to answer this one, Kym, because obviously each person's going to be different with this question, but we realise that each of you were given a fee for appearing on the show. Do you remember what the fee was that you got for appearing on the show?
You know what? I can't even remember, but I do remember that we also got a fee to give to a charity of our choice, which was really nice.
And yours was Merry Makers Australia, I believe. That was yours. Yeah. So what was why did you decide Merry Makers Australia?
They're kids with Down syndrome. It's a dance program for kids and young adults with Down syndrome, and it's just such a great organisation. I went out there and saw them once and just fell in love with the program, the teachers, the kids, the parents. And it's just, that was really special for me to do. And they don't get a lot of funding and, or awareness really. So I was just trying to shine a light on what they do and give support to the families of the kids, because it's really difficult on a lot of the families, and it's a great place for them to go meet other kids, watch them grow and express themselves in ways that they normally wouldn't. So
fantastic.
I'd go out there and teach a little bit too. And then I ended up working with the Down Syndrome Association of LA over here as well. So I've been doing a few things for them. And I used to do, I haven't done it recently, but I was doing a weekly dance class, and we'd have from adults to kids. Like, it was crazy. There were so many of them in there, and just the parents of the kids, their reactions to it all they just makes everything worth it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Those 3 days out there, that was it, $5,000, I believe, went to each of the charities. So I mean,
which was great that they did that.
Yeah, definitely.
And just also shedding like awareness to all the different charities that the celebrities chose, I think is really nice too.
For sure, yeah, and I think it's kind of something that I feel has gotten forgotten, I think, from your season, is that aspect of it. We're here obviously to analyse the game, how you guys played, but there's 12 of you there with $5,000 each. I believe obviously Guy Leach and Justin too, I'm assuming, for finishing second, got to donate a little bit more to the charities for making it that far. So lots of money that was ended up giving to lots of very worthy charities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, which was really nice.
Now, Kym, one person we haven't spoken about is, of course, the host, Ian Dicko Dixon. Now, had you ever met Dicko prior to Celebrity Survivor?
I feel like I'd met, he hadn't done Dancing with the Stars yet, I don't think, or maybe he had, but I wasn't on that season. I'd met him. I don't know if I'd met him just like at an event or something, but he didn't know me very well. But I love Dicko. I know him a little bit more now. And I thought he was great, especially with his commentary as well, with all the challenges. I loved him as a host. I thought he was so good.
Do you have any fun Dicko stories that in your time on the show that you can share with us? Because I feel we're going to ask this to everyone. Because I feel there's got to be some Dicko moments that happened off camera that we missed out on.
Well, I never got to interact with him. You know, we never saw him unless we were at the challenges, and I only did a couple. So, I think he thought I was a complete fish out of water. I think he was kind of laughing sort of at me.
Does he at least say anything to you when you get voted out after he snuffed your torch?
Yeah, when we got voted out, I think he was a bit disappointed because he would have liked to have seen me go a little further. Mm-hmm. So he was like, oh, yeah, I feel like he said to me, oh, I think you're going to be disappointed because I could see you could have done well. Something like that. I don't know. He was like being like a dad.
Which it's great to kind of hear that. Like I always like to hear those interactions between the hosts, and I give Matt shit for being a first boot and everything along those lines. But to have those little moments where you put so much into getting on the show, and all of a sudden you're the first to go after only a couple of days. Bit different in your situation, of course, Kym, than it say would be for Matt's situation, but it's still something that, whether or not you're there or not for different reasons, you've put a lot of investment and you've taken time off and you've kind of prepared. It's never great to be the
first one, beat it off. But yeah, in my case, it sort of all worked out. But you're right. It's like, it is hard because you do put so much into it of actually getting on the show. It's exciting. So it would be a bit disappointing, I guess. But yeah, not in my case.
Well, Kym, when you told production that you were going to vote for yourself, do you remember that? Like, because obviously now,
they were trying to make me not do it.
Yeah.
They've never had that happen. I feel like that. I don't think they'd ever had that happen. Have they?
Well, actually, so you're not allowed to do it now. So it's strict rules that you cannot vote for yourself. Basically, if you want to go and you can't vote for yourself, you have to quit. That's a whole nother thing. But it actually happened in the first Channel 9 season. Lucinda voted for herself. There were slightly different rules then regarding past votes and all that, which was different to your season. But yeah, so our actual first two seasons in Survivor, both the first boots had actually voted for themselves, which is, we don't believe it's happened in any other country, because you're not allowed to do it in the American version either.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that I could do it. Mm. So yeah, because you have to tell them who you're going to vote for.
Yeah.
And I started voting for myself. And it didn't happen until we got to the, what do you call it? When you get to
the
that
tribal
area?
council. Yeah.
Yeah. Is when we had to tell them what we were going to do. And I think they were probably all scrambling, like, what do we do? And then when I think they were just like, oh, this must have happened when the cameras went rolling, because then everyone voted for me.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting. We spoke to the executive producer, David Mason, a couple of weeks back, and we sort of, spoke a little bit about that situation. Did you have many conversations with him when you realised it wasn't happening? He kind of mentioned that there were some talks maybe about you just wanting to leave, and maybe the conversations were held a little bit for you to, look, to stick it out a little bit and then go out in this situation. So, you obviously wanted to leave. Yeah. Are you glad that in a way that you kind of stuck it out to, I guess, be voted out rather than just simply on day two going, nah, I'm done, take me out of here?
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't going to leave. If we had have won the pig challenge and I wouldn't have left, because we wouldn't have obviously gone to the tribal council, and I wouldn't have wanted to just leave. I would have stuck it out, and who knows, then I maybe would have really been in it. But when there was the opportunity for, someone had to go, I was just like, I feel like it should be me, so I would quit, if you know what I mean.
You mentioned the pig challenge. Now, you actually sat out that challenge because there was odd numbers between Kakula and Moso. Who decided that you were going to sit out? Did you not want to do it? I was
willing to do it. Like, I love the challenges because it's kind of a bit boring at camp. So it's like you want to do them. So I did want to do it, but then everybody wanted to do it. You know what I mean? So they were like, well, we all want to do it. And I think it was Amber. She'd skipped the swimming challenge.
Yes.
First one. So she was definitely doing it. And then Imogen was like, well, I need to redeem myself, so I want to do it. Justin was like, we had to have him do it because of the friend. And Fiona was a badass, so she's like, well, I want to do it.
And then you had Nicole Dixon.
Nicole was, she still wanted, even though Imogen was scared because she's very much into Peter, she still didn't think it would look good on her not doing it. You know,
which I was going to ask that because she was very conflicted about that, and you could see, and they kind of kept cutting to her.
I was saying, I'll do it. Like, I'll go in for you. I'll do it, because she was conflicted with everything, but she really was adamant that she wanted to do it because of what had happened the previous challenge. So I was just like, oh, it's all right. You know, I'm pretty like easygoing.
Which, I mean, that I love that challenge. That challenge is one of my favorite challenges on any version of Survivor when they do that. But, I mean, it's interesting hearing that about Imogen, because Matt and I are massive Imogen fans. We think she played an absolutely fantastic and one of the greatest Australian Survivor players to ever be, who gets no credit, really, because your season sadly really often isn't recognised.
She played it so well.
Yeah. So when you watched it play out, were you surprised? Because she went from very much nearly your position, the first boot, to, you would argue, probably should have won the game had it not been for a ridiculous twist at the end.
Yes, I thought she was going to win it.
Yeah.
You know, I actually think that Fiona may have been booted off if I wasn't, to be honest, because I think Imogen was starting to get everyone to vote to think about getting rid of Fiona.
And you would have voted for Fiona had you not?
Yes. Yeah, because I didn't want to vote for Imogen. You know, and I liked Fiona too, but out of the two of them, I got along better with Imogen.
So because Fiona definitely came across as she wanted to be, I guess, the leader, the boss of the tribe. Is that just how her personality is?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know her very well out of the show, but that's very much how she went into it, you know, as this is what we're doing. And it did alienate, you know, a lot of people from her because she was very strong. So people were just like a few eye rolls, you know, behind her back and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess in a situation like we were in, someone has to take, you know, the lead.
The other female that was on the cast was, of course, Gabrielle Richards. Now, you never were on a tribe with her.
No, but I know her really well.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Had you known her before? Have you known her since? Yeah.
I love her. She's so funny. She's just the sweetest. I love her so much. We did Dancing with the Stars together, my season with Justin.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So, I was kind of like, when I found out she was on the tribe, I was like, oh, it'd be so great. Like then if they merged tribes together and I could see her. It was nice seeing her at the first challenge.
Yeah.
You know, but she was the rival kind of thing, you know. But yeah, I love Gabrielle. She's just such a great Woman. So she was great. I loved all the girls on my team. But I do think if I didn't go, I feel like Amber would have voted for Fiona. I think Justin would have. I don't know.
Well, how does that play out then from that point on? Let's play the great game of what if here, Kym, and say that had you stuck around, had Fiona gone first, are you then in an alliance with anyone in particular? Do you feel that you could have stuck around?
I don't know. Maybe I would have formed an alliance with Imogen and we would have gone far together. I don't know.
Because we always love playing these games. It's always impossible to answer, of course, but it's just, you know, us Survivor fans, we like to wonder the what-if scenarios.
Well, the thing is, Kym, too, I know you've been on many shows, but there's something about Survivor that it's so unique. I mean, very few times in your life will you, well, maybe never in your life do people get the opportunity to go to an island where you're basically just left to your own devices. Obviously, there's stuff that happens with production, but mainly left to your own devices. Yeah. Do you look back 15 years later and think, maybe it would have been, maybe I should have just stuck it out a little bit more?
Yeah, I definitely go through moments. I don't think about it that much, but if someone now just talking to you, the memories are pretty great that we had, in our little camp. I kind of do wish I had stuck it out a little bit more because I really loved the challenges.
Yeah.
That's, I'm sort of competitive and I enjoyed that aspect of it. And I feel like we were making our camp pretty nice. I don't know. I think my sheet would have just turned me though, with everyone using the sheet. I don't want Australia to think me like crazy over everyone using the sheet.
Can I just say, Kym, your luxury item was clearly the best, because you look at I think Amber Petty, she brought mascara.
I know.
Fiona, you mentioned Fiona, she had her tarot cards. Yeah, it's like, what are they going to be used for? Here you are, you brought this 1,000-thread Egyptian cotton sheet, and then you don't even get to wrap yourself in it. They want to use it as the bloody tarp on the ground.
I know. Imogen brought the best one though. She had a pocket knife.
Oh. That's
I
very
didn't know we were
clever.
allowed to bring that, but yeah, she had a pocket knife, which was amazing because we could use it to obviously cut lots of things. And
Wow.
we actually started our first fire with the pocket knife, cutting off a bit of our backpack because it was like made out of straw, the backpack. And we used that to get the fire going.
Wow. Look at this, Matt. We're learning even more about Imogen pre-game, how amazing she is. Look at this.
Actually,
Yeah.
Kym, talking about making the fire, there's one line you say to Justin when he's trying to make the fire, and he says something like, "Oh, geez, I better make this fire," because I think he was worried that all the girls were going to vote him being the only guy. And you said something like, "Yeah, you better." You know,
Yeah.
like, it was just a great little one-liner, like, "Yeah, you better get that fire going."
Well, we have such a funny relationship. I'm used to like being the boss of him on the dance floor, you know, and I remember him like, you know, you're not the boss of me here anymore. We're not on the dance floor. You can't be telling me what to do.
You mentioned those long days, kind of how you long for the challenges because it got quite boring. Did you and Justin ever decide to kind of just put on some dancing shows for the rest of the guys out there?
Not really. Fiona had us going around getting banana leaves and, you know, she
Put you to work.
She put you to work.
She put us to work. We were too scared.
Can I just say, we're looking forward to interviewing Fiona, as of course everyone we are. But I think, we've been in contact with Fiona, and she's going to be coming on the show. But
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what she says.
Yeah, I think every Survivor show, they need that one sort of, I guess, bossy person. I guess Fiona's that person.
Yeah. Well, she came into it. She probably thought, these girls don't know what they're doing. So she was like, well, me especially.
Well, and she definitely seemed to be taking it serious. And I know, look, one thing about your season, a lot of fans say, well, that was a celebrity season. They were just playing for charity. It doesn't count. That's one thing. We count it. A lot of people do, but a lot of fans often do say that where, well, it doesn't count. It's a celebrity season. But you look at someone like Fiona, I mean, she was playing that game for real. Like, she clearly, and yeah.
From the moment we got on the plane, I was just like, oh my gosh, like that one's like serious, you know? I was just like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? But I remember actually going back to when we were on the boat, we were all on this big boat going out, and they gave us sandwiches. And I'm like, I'm definitely eating this because I don't know I'm going to eat again. So we were all sitting there having a laugh, like having our sandwiches. But still, like, the girls had the guards up a little bit, I think. You know, the guys were definitely a lot more friendly. So I remember eating this sandwich, and then we get there and I see these canoes. I'm like, oh gosh. And then Dicko does the whole welcome to Survivor and tells us everything. We honestly had no idea about anything. And that's when we first find out it's the girls against the guys. And then he says, okay, now you're going to get in this canoe. And all the girls are like racing over to get their first canoe. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what are they running for? And I remember I get in my canoe and I was with this lady, and I was like, oh, hi. And I was like, so tell me about the island. Like, I'm trying to like have a chat with her to get some information on where we were going. And she's just looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, you can take your time. Like, I just didn't want her to get in there too quick. I was the last one to get there, I remember. And I could see them all like going so fast into the island. Wow. And I remember I had these Timberland like hiking boots I'd bought, and special weatherproof like socks, you know, for hiking. Yep. And they were like brand new shoes. And I remember we get there and I'm just looking around like, what is this? And so I was sad to say goodbye to the lady that rode me in. And I remember I put my foot out and this wave just came up and like wet my whole shoe. And I was just like, Oh, my shoe.
And that's the moment you wanted to leave, right?
Yeah.
Can I just say, Ben?
No, that was the moment the producer grabbed me and went, "You come sit on the rock." They were like, "This is gold."
It actually it was gold. I remember like everyone they keep flicking between like David Oldfield on Kukula. He's loving it. He's getting amongst it, and then they put to you sitting on the rock, and you're just like, what is going on here? What is this?
You've got almost like this look, and you're looking to the left. You're like what am I doing here? And it's just the way they edit that is fantastic.
It was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I remember even looking, and I'm just like, there's not even sand. And it was just like the rocks, and they were moving like they were little crabs. And I'm sitting on the rock just looking at the ground. Like there's not even any sand in it. And I guess they put us there, what I found out later, because I said, I thought they'd be sand. And they're like, no, because you get sand flies when you're...
right.
That's why we do this beach with the rocks.
And I will say, Ben, as well, that I can back up Kym here. The worst thing is getting wet socks and shoes on the very first day.
Yeah. It's horrible feeling. And I've just got one wet sock and shoe. And I was like, this is great.
Well, that's what I've unfortunately never played, but that to me has always been the thing that I know I would struggle with. It's that uncomfort, and like I'm a type of guy who I'm like you, Kym. Like I like to be in a comfortable area. I hate going to the beach and getting sand in my shoes. I'm very anal about things like that. So I would be that person on that first day who would be going, oh my God, we've got to sleep on this, but there's a bug there. And like, I would get over it. But initially I would be like, what am I doing here?
I feel like I got over it, on the first night. I mean, I was still a bit upset about my sheet that everyone was just lying on it. But I remember I did have a hoodie, so I just put the hoodie up so like no bugs could get in my ears and stuff. But yeah, I definitely didn't sleep well. It was the second night that was after the first challenge when we had basically this mini cyclone. It was the worst weather. And that's when everyone was saying it when we were lying in our shelter, which was really not done because we just had banana leaves on the sticks. So, water was coming through, and we were kind of delirious because none of us had slept because it was just raining. We had no fire, and everyone had said on that night, "Oh, that's it. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave." Everyone had said it. But and I remember saying to everyone, I know you're all saying this right now that you want to leave, but like if we lose tomorrow's challenge, you all want to be here way more than I do. I will vote myself off. Wow. So that's what was kind of said.
So Kym, I just want to clarify something. Obviously, with all the contestants, there was an appearance fee. So did that not change? So obviously you lasted 3 days. So did your appearance fee not change whether you lasted 3 days or 15 days? Was it the same appearance fee?
I don't know. I think you may have got more if you stayed longer. I can't remember. It was so long ago.
Yeah, we spoke.
I know you got the same amount of money for your charity.
Yeah.
Because this is why I like going back to when I asked that question, because we spoke with Amber on a sister show of ours. She talked a bit about that. Guy Leach has appeared on another podcast where he spoke a little bit about that. So, and in speaking to David Mason, I think he alluded to that different people got different sort of amounts. So it's kind of, I don't know if we're just trying to find out who got the most and who got the least.
I don't know. I feel like it would make sense if you got more, the more you stayed.
Yeah.
Well, because the one thing I always said was, and this is what, I'm like, Kym's smart. If you were going to get the same appearance fee, whether you lasted 3 days or 15 days, if you're having a terrible time and you're like, this isn't for me, and why not? You know what I mean? Like, if you're getting the same amount, why not leave? That's smart.
It wasn't really about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I felt bad voting for someone else. Like, I know I said I probably would have voted for Fiona because I wouldn't have voted for Imogen, but she still didn't deserve to go, Like, so that's why I thought I'm just going to vote for myself. I'm glad they've kind of changed that rule now that you can't vote myself.
It was changed, like, I mean, because, you know...
I'm surprised they even let me do it.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, as Matt mentioned, like, it's this weird little quirk of Australian Survivor before Channel 10 picked it up, that the two versions had the first boot voting for themselves, which when it was done by Lucinda in 2002, that was the first time anywhere in the world. And then your season has that, and David Mason wasn't aware that had happened in the Channel 9. He thought they were creating history, so it was kind of a unique quirk.
And I think, Kym, they tried to cover it up a little bit that you had voted for yourself, because they never showed it on TV. Obviously, afterwards, word gets around that that obviously you voted for.
Did it show that I voted for myself?
No, they didn't show that, but word got around afterwards that obviously that all the votes, including your own, because they tried to sort of edit around that to
because it probably looked funny because everybody voted for me. So that wouldn't normally happen.
No, and the thing was, it was kind of weird because the whole episode, it was Imogen looks like she's going to go. She's going to get voted out. And then all of a sudden it's like you make this one comment like, oh, I'm not really, not really happy here, whatever. And then you're gone. And it's really not explained. It's like, how did that happen? And then they never showed you voting for yourself. And it's not till afterwards that I guess through social media and all that, it's worked out that you voted for yourself.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
The poor producers must have been like, what the hell?
Your final words, you talk about loving the experience, and then you talk about you hope one of the girls wins. Was it tricky? Because like being so friendly with Justin, like obviously being friends with him, were you also rooting for him? Kind of like, were you just hoping it was a girl or Justin basically?
Justin to do really well, but I was really proud of what the girls had done. Like we made this great shelter. I feel like, we hadn't won the challenges, but we gave it a really good go. And I was going for Imogen like from the get-go because she really wanted it, but she was sort of a little bit more of the quiet achiever, and she did have not a great start with that first challenge, but she had this fight in her, I could see.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like mad Imogen fans, and like just the way she played that game, and like going back to our points we've said a few times about how sadly your season, a lot of Australian Survivor fans don't recognise it, but I mean this is where I think it's important to, because someone like Imogen Bailey would be incredible on any season of Survivor, be it a celebrity version or not. Because Matt, I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a lot of how the Channel 10 ones have worked, but Matt's season, for example, was a mix of celebrities and non-celebrities. So it's called Champions versus Contenders. So we're making the argument that often Channel 10 has kind of almost legitimised your season now, because people who argue yours doesn't count because there were celebrities on it, well, they're the same people who like the Channel 10 version where we've had, I mean, I don't know if you know, Shane Gould won a season of Australian Survivor based purely on being on Matt's season. So there you go.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, I'll sort of get you up to date, Kym. Basically, with my season, it was champions versus contenders. So I was obviously on the contenders tribe, but the champions had people like the commando, Steve Willis. They had Matt Rogers, a football player, ex-football player. They had AFL Shane Gould, obviously Olympic swimmer. They had a couple of Olympians on it. So how it worked with them is not all of them, not all the champions, but the high-profile ones, they got an appearance fee, just like you would have, but they also were in contention to win the $500,000 as well. So Shane Gould ended up going on to win my season. Yeah. So she got the $500,000 for herself, not for charity. So it was kind of a mix of, well, you get an appearance fee and you also get a chance to win $500,000, which I think is.
She would.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, and then they did another season like that, the season afterwards. So, I guess like what Ben and I say now, well, it kind of legitimizes your season where, well, these people, are getting appearance fees and they're playing Survivor. Everyone counts them as proper seasons. So, it makes your season the same as well, I guess.
Oh, we definitely didn't have special treatment. I don't think. Like we literally didn't have anything. We didn't eat. What did we have? Justin turned up with a pot and some yams, I think. Yeah. That was it. Wow. And then, I think we found some bananas, but we had to cook them. But we really didn't eat.
So you wouldn't have eaten much in those 3 days?
No, not at all.
No. Yeah.
It was, good way to lose weight.
Which, I mean,
we're pretty fit back then.
On that notion, though, that given that there is this Channel 10 version now where they do often invite celebrities onto playing this game, and you would actually get an appearance fee. Again, not what the point is, but you can actually play for real money now. Like, it's sort of, you're not just getting a thing. Would you ever be tempted if all of a sudden Channel 10 came and knocking to give it another crack?
Oh, I think I disgraced myself on the first
Chance
time.
to redeem yourself, though. You could do what Imogen did in that challenge and kind of come out and redeem yourself 15 years later.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've lost my Timberland boots.
Have you got your sheet? Did you get your sheet back, though?
No, I left it with them because they were using it a lot for sheltering day, as the tarp to lie on. So
they didn't come back to you after the season and say, here it is again.
Ben, our goal, we got to find out whatever happened to this sheet. Did it end up going all the way to the end? Like, was Justin Melby and Guy Leach cuddled in with?
We'll find out for you. Yeah,
I need to know what happened to my sheet. If it was, right. I feel like they were pretty happy that I left them with my luxury item.
I'm literally just picturing now the final two, Justin Melby and Guy Leach, wrapped up together in the Egyptian cotton sheet. I reckon. I hope that's the final.
And Matt, I tell you what we'll also do is in each of our episode recaps when we're watching the episodes, I'm going to try and count how many times we can see the sheet in the background. So like maybe we can kind of be detectives and go, well, there it is in that scene, but then it might disappear in like episode 4.
I remember watching it. Obviously I was only on one episode, but watching other episodes, I'm like, oh my God, there's my sheet. There's my sheet. I was kind of proud that they were using it.
There's part of you in every episode, Kym. You kind of have a legacy left in each episode.
Kym, I'll tell you a funny story. So in my episode, obviously, like you, I was only in one episode, but I actually, the first reward challenge, I won a pillow for my tribe. So a nice pillow. So that was actually my thing. Every episode, obviously, after that, I was always looking for who was on the pillow, and it went the whole way. The pillow was all the way to the end, yeah. And so you'd see different, and I always had a little laugh, thinking, "Oh, well, that's I'm still in the game. There's my pillow."
Gosh, you were the first one out, and you even won.
So we basically, with my season, the moment we started, we met the host, obviously Jonathan LaPaglia, and then within 10 minutes we were doing our first reward challenge. So we had to go one-on-one. So it was like basically had to go down a slide, and then you had to wrestle for a prize, and I won my one. I wrestled for a pillow. We won that. So. Yeah, and then basically whatever you won, the tribe got to take back to camp for the first time. So
who'd you beat, Matt? Who'd you beat in your one-on-one?
Well, we didn't get to choose who we went up against, and they sort of it was the system how it works. So I went against Moana Hope, an AFL.
He didn't beat Matt Rogers. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
I didn't get a choice who I went up against. I got put with her, but she's a good athlete anyway. She's a great athlete,
she is.
But yeah, so unfortunately my tribe didn't win the main one, which was the last one. We had the two big guys. We had Heath and Mike. He was like 7 foot tall, and Brian Lake, a AFL footballer, and they were for the Flint, and and the champions won that. So we never got fire when I was there, unfortunately. Where first night they got fire, which of course is so important. But yeah, so no, it was making me laugh. You're talking about your sheets. I was doing the same thing with the pillow.
We'll get a count. We'll get a count to you, and we'll also find out.
The bottom of it.
We will. We promise. We've got a couple of things this season to get to the bottom to. That's one there. Kym, you mentioned that you watched obviously the rest of the season. What was your take on how it all played out, and Guy winning the twist, everything along those lines?
It was so long ago, I can't really remember, but I just remember being really proud of Imogen. She just did so well. I was happy, Justin and Guy were in the end. I can't remember what happened with the twist.
Yeah, so essentially, your season has a very unique distinction in the history of Survivor of being the only ever season that everyone got voted out at least once, because, of course, Justin and Guy got voted out, but you had the twist. Yeah, they sort of brought 2 people back in, and they worked their way into the David, Nicole, Imogen little 3-0 and got them voted out, and then they were in the final 2, and Guy wins by 1 vote. So,
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Crazy twist. But did you, after the game, obviously you don't have a reunion, sadly, on your season, but did you stay in touch with many of the people post-Survivor?
I've Facebook friends with Imogen, and I've seen her. So she's probably the only one that I really stay in contact with. Justin, obviously. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Because there was no Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah.
back in those days. It was just Facebook. I think it just, I don't know.
And even
would have been
Facebook was very early on as well. Yeah.
Which I guess, in a way, I mean, is that a positive? Because I can imagine that the way your episode aired, there would have been a lot of people talking about your episode and sort of how it was. I can imagine in a social media world. I mean, I give Matt shit, but I mean, and like, in all jokes aside, Matt got a lot of shit on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm pretty sure I would have. People were like, what? You know? Yeah. So I kind of got out of that.
And was there much in terms of, because one thing we're discovering with your season, we've said is kind of the least we know about any season, particularly around the coverage and everything. Were you doing the day after you were voting out? I'm guessing you were on Sunrise. I mean, were there other radio interviews and things like that? Was there much press around it?
No, not really, because I had to go. Well, obviously it was kept quiet until the end of filming.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already back in Sydney because they didn't keep me there as part of the, whatever you call it, the tribe.
Yep.
Council. But yeah, I think then I was already in the States maybe when it aired.
So there was no hanging out with Koshi or Mel the next morning, basically?
No, not really. I just did a few radio interviews and stuff like that, but people were confused as to why I got voted out because I think it was a bit, it didn't point to me.
It was a bit confusing how that played out. Yeah, it's interesting kind of seeing, that period of Survivor and how that all plays out. Nowadays, it's kind of, it's a completely different beast with that. But we've obviously talked a little bit about kind of post-Survivor, Kym. I mean, you've gone on to amazing things since. Obviously a lot to cover and that one thing there. But I mean, Dancing with the Stars US, you mentioned you get that opportunity. That leads you to great success there, but also obviously family-wise too. You meet your husband and everything along those lines. I'm intrigued out of all the people you dance with on US Dancing with the Stars. I'm looking here at people like Jerry Springer. You got to dance with the Hoff, Donny Osmond, David Arquette. I mean, Mr. T. I mean, take your husband out of the equation. He's your favourite. I realise that. But who was your favourite that you got to dance with out of those?
Well, obviously, besides Robert, my husband, they called me and said, will you come over and be on the American version? And I remember telling all my girlfriends, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to the States, like it's going to be huge. You're going to get someone like massive, like George Clooney or someone, And I remember flying over there thinking, wow, like this is like the big time. And I land in LA and they take me straight to the studio and they said, okay, your celebrity's inside the room right now. You're just going to open the door, go in and ask generic questions like, why are you doing the show? Hi, blah, blah. And I said, oh, well, I may not know who he is because I'm from Australia. Do you think you should tell me before? And they said, no, he's like the biggest star we've ever had on the show. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's George. Like in my head, I was just like, it's George. So I remember walking in the door, opening it, and there's Jerry Springer standing there. And I was just like, oh, hi. Like I probably couldn't hide like the look on my face, like, oh my God, me. And I remember the first words he said to me, he looked at me, he goes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm not George.
Like, oh my God, this guy is the sweetest. And then, he was just like the sweetest man. He's so smart. He's so funny. We ended up just getting along so great. And he was like the perfect first partner for me to have, because I was a bit nervous, being on the US show. It was like so much bigger than the Australian show, just in the regards of production value and the sets. And I mean, I grew up watching all like MGM, musicals and stuff like that. And it was very much like that. I remember driving to the lot and you have the boom gates and there's a security there and you drive through and you have your own car space. Like my name was on it. I'm just like, what in the world? And then I have a trailer, my own trailer with a PA. And I'm like, I've got a personal assistant. What is happening with a fridge? They're asking me what I want in my fridge. I'm just like, what?
Wow.
So
can I just say, this sounds a hell of a lot better than being on Survivor. Can I just say?
I know.
Just a bit. And again, thank you, Survivor, for voting me out early so I could have all this. Thanks, Amber. Thanks, Imogen. Thanks, everyone.
I'm just like, if they only knew what I've just come from.
Yeah. Which it's fantastic to see that because, it's often one thing a lot of people talk about with Celebrity Survivor is there was a portion of the cast where, say, many people might go, okay, well, who are they, and everything along those lines. But a lot of people from that season we've discovered haven't really stayed in the limelight a lot. Like when we talk about someone like Justin Melby's sort of fallen off a little bit. Gabrielle has kind of fallen off a little bit. Nicole, all these sort of people, I guess, go back into regular life and everything along those lines. So for yourself, though, you've gone on to great success, obviously, with everything that came through that. And you have a fantastic family now too, Kym. Give us a bit of an update of kind of, what's happened in meeting Robert on the show now, and you've got some young children and everything as well.
Well, I did, many seasons over here after the one with Jerry Springer, which I thought was just going to be, a quick 3-month fun experience in the States. Then I went on tour with Dance with the Stars America, then another season, then another tour, then another season. I'm just 4 years had gone by. I'm just oh my gosh. And then I think I've done 16 seasons of Dancing with the Stars. And I was you know what? I miss Australia. So I got the opportunity to be a judge on the Australian version. Mm-hmm. So then I came home and I bought a house here in West Hollywood. And I kept the house, but I was in Australia and I'd come back here and there for little bits and pieces of Dancing with the Stars. But I decided I'm going to just sell my house and just move back to Australia permanently. And then they called me and they said, I think I'd done 3 seasons judging and I'd been off maybe 3 seasons in America. So that's a year and a half because they do 2 seasons a year. And they said, we want you to come back for the 10th anniversary, which is it was the 20th season. 10 years. We want an OG to come. And so I was an old girl, original girl. So I was okay, it'll be I never had that last official hurrah. I left thinking that I might come back, I may not. But I thought this is going to be my last season as a dancer. So I come back just to do the season and I get partnered with Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank, which is, I think you've got it in Australia.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And it was just crazy. We ended up meeting, I was trying to keep it very, very professional. And then we ended up together and married and we have babies now. And now I'm living in LA. We used to go back to Australia a lot, every Christmas, but now with COVID, we can't go back. I don't want to quarantine with 2-year-olds in a hotel.
No.
I will wait, but yeah, things are pretty great. I've sort of hung up my dance shoes. I was doing the official podcast for Dancing with the Stars last season. They're not doing it this season because of, COVID and limited people on set. But yeah, I always sort of keep in with the Dancing with the Stars family in America, which is great. I've done a couple of movies in Canada, actually.
Great. Whereabouts? Yeah. Whereabouts have you been?
In Toronto.
Yep.
Sort of, but up a little bit. What's the area called? It was way up north. We shot the movie. I can't remember.
What was the movie? I need to ask now what the movie was.
It's called Love Alaska.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I did another one called The Wedding Planners, which is a series. I was just in one episode of that.
Great.
In Canada. So that was kind of post babies. Mm-hmm. I think.
And is that with the future you want to go now? Do you want to go into more movies?
Well, I kind of just fell into it with the first one, Love Alaska. I was playing this kind of hopeless romantic that's come to this town called Love, and it's in Alaska, and everyone goes there for a speed dating thing.
Great.
So that's my character in that. And I ended up really enjoying it, and then I did another little thing. So I don't know, we'll see. I kind of like the production side of things more. I'd like to get into producing content a little more than being in front of the camera now.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting you mentioned about some of the other sort of those. I mean, a couple other ones too that I just wanted to point out as well. Celebrity Apprentice you did a while ago in Australia as well. And you also did, was it called The Real Dirty Dancing? That was a very recent one.
Oh, that
Australia.
Was great. Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, so still doing a few things in Australia where you can.
Oh, that was, I mean, gosh, I love working in Australia. That's my dream, to be able to come back for, 3 months or something, do a gig, and because I want my kids to know Australia. So we're planning on always coming back for 2 months over Christmas.
Great.
Or maybe in the holidays coming back. but yeah, the Real Dirty Dancing was amazing. I was co-hosting with Todd McKinney and choreographing that. And it was great because we shot most of it at the Real Dirty Dancing location at the lodge. So that's where we did most of the filming. And then the second half of it was done in Sydney. So I was here in the States already. And then I got to go home for just a week. So it was perfect.
You must sometimes just sit there and pinch yourself, because I hear that, you know, when you talk about dancing, you just the passion you have for it. And obviously it's been something you've been doing all your life. And you must just, you know, sit there and pinch yourself sometimes at what dancing has helped you get in life. Obviously, you know, just such a, you know, so many great memories, obviously now a family through dancing, all that. I mean, it's quite extraordinary.
I know, it's so crazy. Thank goodness I ended up like, you know, having a career from dancing, because it is a really tricky thing to end up having a successful career from. You know, I think now about my daughter and my son, like, I don't know if I want them to go into professional dancing, because it is really hard to make it. So I do feel really lucky that I've been able to have such a great career and branch off and to do other things like judging and hosting and stuff like that, and meet my husband through it. It's
at what age do you think you might start showing him a few little moves?
Oh, they're already dancing to things and this and that. Actually, I was like, I bought my little daughter tap shoes.
Wow.
When she could barely walk and she was in tap shoes. It's just like
fantastic. She's got the bug already.
I'm just laughing to myself, Kym. I'm thinking to myself, you're probably dreading the day when they get a little bit older and they say, "Oh, Mummy, can we go camping?"
I'll be like, in the backyard.
Have you actually been camping since Survivor though, Kym?
No, and I don't have a desire to.
There you go. All right.
Actually, I do tell her, like, I want to go to Ayers Rock. Apparently there's that glamping place.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Not quite the same.
No.
But maybe what you were thinking you were going to get on Survivor, so maybe you can finally get that payoff all these years later.
Exactly. I'll go glamping for sure. I'll take the kids glamping.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
But my husband's worse than me. Like, the poor kids, we're going to have to, I don't know, have some other family take them camping, because my husband, he's definitely worse than I am.
You've met the right guy, Kym.
Yeah.
Now, also with your sheets, are they still Egyptian 1000 count, or have you kind of gone up a little bit more now to kind of make up for that disaster of Vanuatu?
I think they're even. I mean, I feel like I was exaggerating. I feel like they were maybe like 800 count. Definitely, yeah. The sheets now are like 1,000.
Yep. And nowhere near Vanuatu. They are not going anywhere out that direction ever again.
Nowhere near the outdoors.
Never again. Never again. Kym, it really has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today about this. As we said at the very beginning, something that barely probably crosses your mind now with everything that you've experienced since this.
And no one knows I've done it here in the States, and no one would ever.
Well, now they will. You might get Jeff Probst calling you now, Kym.
I feel like everyone doesn't even remember that I was on it, because I was off so quick. So I kind of just like went under the radar totally.
You must have had a laugh when you heard that these two blokes want to talk to you about your 3 days on Survivor.
I know. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you joking? Like, it's such a blast from the past. And I'm like, do they really want to talk to me? I was not even really on it at all. But well, it was great chatting.
That's kind of the point of everything we're trying to do here, is to kind of recognize it. You know, everyone, whether you've been on the show for 3 days or in the Channel 10 version, 55 days upwards of it. And it's kind of, we did think when we got to this season that, we might not be able to hear from someone like you, because A, you might not have heard of, you might not remember it. B, it might be a case of, well, that was so long ago, what have I got to say? So in order to be able to do this, we're so thankful. And also too, for me to be able to sit here, not only talk to you, but have Matt do this with me as well, to have, basically a quarter of the first boots in the history of Australian Survivor on the line with me right now. I feel like I want to shut up right now and let Matt close it, because I feel like you two have got this bond that needs to be gone on a little bit more here in the first boot club. Go, Matt. Come on, talk this up.
I've got to say, Kym, it's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said at the start, I wouldn't have missed this interview for the world. I've been looking forward to it for a long time now, and you are a great member of the first boot club. You may not watch much Survivor now, but you'll always be a member, and I'm telling you what, Kym, it is the best club to be a part of.
It is. It really is. I've got the best memories from my 3 days of being on Survivor, and yay to the first boot club.